Are you gonna focus on me? Thank you. So the plan for today is to divide and conquer. So right now Phil is outside on the other side of the house installing gutters to match the first side because that worked so well. We wanted to replicate it. Meanwhile, while I'm not helping him, because sometimes I am popping out and helping him move ladders and giving him tools, I am currently working on preparing all of the rooms on the first floor to have their baseboards installed, because there are things like moving furniture away from relevant walls, cleaning the baseboards, sweeping, mopping, all that stuff, because a lot of them are really dirty, because often where we're putting the baseboards is very close to where the radiators were, which means that there's all that black goo everywhere. So kind of boring, mundane things happening today, but what are you gonna do? Can't all be exciting. Last time I had a very boring and mundane task. I asked you all, the viewers, for your preferred podcasts, and boy howdy, did you deliver. I have a fantastic list, which I will put on screen for a few seconds here for those of you who wish to take a screenshot and explore, perhaps expand your listening selection. So if that's you, get ready, because this is going to go by pretty fast. How's it going?
We're just planning.
Yeah, sure. Ready? Whee! Please don't fall. She says as she almost falls. Well, unsurprisingly, there's only so much cleaning I can do before my patience wears thin and I start getting antsy and wanting to do something that feels more productive. So I'm switching gears and went down to the basement and dug out these guys and gonna put some mesh in them. So these nasty, gnarly pieces of moist, half-rotten wood are the frames that go in the basement window. We were able to find, so far, at least 2 out of the 4. And while they're not beautiful and they're barely holding together, they are still functional. So ran out and got some aluminum mesh, and I'm going to staple it down in there to keep out these squirrels and raccoons and all other sorts of animals out of our basement, because while we haven't had any trouble with that so far, at the moment the weather is fairly nice outside and our basement is fairly nasty. But pretty soon here the weather is going to start getting colder and our basement is hopefully going to start getting warmer and therefore more attractive to all those types of little vermin. So just going to get some mesh in these windows, hopefully keep the animals out so that when we leave we can just slap them up on there and keep them out. Eventually at some point we might replace these with something a little more aesthetic, but for the moment, function over form, baby. As you can see, the frames were very well made back in their day, so they are still structurally sound, but also the wood is just very moist and damaged, so long term these will be replaced or at least significantly repaired. But again, just like the gutters, we're doing a bit of emergency damage control in the short term, and we'll come up with better solutions for the long run once we've got all these bigger issues under control. Now, while we're on the topic of heating and installing all the heaters into the house, I did want to mention a tool that we've been using around the house for a variety of reasons, including and probably mainly to check if the heaters are doing their jobs and also to see where all of that lovely, very expensive heat that we're producing is leaking out of our house, and that is this. It is the Topton thermal gun. Phil has wanted one for ages, and we finally bought one with our own money, and then completely by coincidence, about 2 weeks later, Topton reached out to us to see if we were interested in trying out the same exact product. So while this segment is sponsored and they did send me a second model to use with my iPhone, I also want to be very clear that we bought the first camera, the one that you're going to see in all this footage, based purely on our own research and having independently come to the conclusion that this was in fact the best thermal camera for the job. So amusingly, we had actually filmed a lot of this footage this past winter before Topton reached out to us, just to show you the tool and have some fun with it. So with that being said, let's throw it over to Phil, who has watched far more Tech Bro channels than me. He's gonna do the fancy unboxing while I make some decidedly un-Tech Bro commentary, and then let's use the tool to look around our house and see where exactly it is that we're leaking all of this heat. Also, to be clear, we are jumping ahead in the renovation timeline for a second. These clips were filmed back in February. Ooh, shiny. All right, let's get the phone. Let's try it. It's me. Oh, it's so hot. Except my fingers are so cold.
This is ridiculous.
Wow. Oh my god. That's wild.
Put your hand on the table. 3, 2, 1.
Oh. Okay, I left no mark, but you left a pretty good mark. Where's mine? Mine's like over here, so it's already fading into obscurity. Wow.
No, I was here.
So why did we decide to choose the Topton thermal camera over all the other options in the market? Well, mainly because it's got a higher resolution at a cheaper price than all of the competitors, but we also love that it was small, it could plug into our smartphones, it seemed really easy to use, and it also had a lot of different customization settings, such as this transparency option, which I think is super cool and which Phil is about to demonstrate.
So one of the cool features with the thermal camera is that you can use transparency to slide from reality to thermal. So if you activate dual light, you can then sync the image to reality. You need something that shows heat. Okay, the box here, the box there, you just match them and then it tracks where things are. So if you go in reality mode, you just see that. Then you can switch into the other dimension. So it allows you to, if you're not sure what you're seeing with the thermal, you're not sure what's up, then you can just go into, okay, now I'm looking at the shelf and you can see what's what.
Let's go look at the house.
The bottom corner behind the lamp is really bad.
Oh yeah, wow. So that leads right to the outside. So we've probably got a bunch of air leaking right in there.
So here we can see that the basement insulation is lacking. The basement heat doesn't reach these corners because of the brick wall downstairs. So the outside air is allowed to seep in the floor. Same thing in that corner. You can see the temperature indicator. Outside is 7 right now. So this is basically outside air coming in. And the whole crack used to be like this, but since we put the tape it's quite a bit better. There's less air infiltration. It's just a temporary solution, but it seems to be doing the job. See, we're missing a little bit in the top corner here. No tape, air coming in. It's quite obvious. And the top of the molding here, all the same.
It's really wild how like such a tiny spot can make such a big difference.
Mm-hmm. The wall corner there, there's a lot of heat from the basement that seeps in. And I would explain why all of this here was moist and moldy when we came in. All the humid air from the basement was able to rise up in this whole wall cavity. Actually, you can see all the way up here is quite a bit hotter. So all the heat from the basement is getting lost in that one wall bay and bringing the moisture along with it.
Okay, so we know we need to do something about that.
If we go in the basement, I'm pretty sure we can find where that air is coming up.
All right, let's go see.
So if you look, that's a normal how the rest of the wall is closed up by the subfloor. But if we move up here, we can see that the wall cavity is open. So all the hot air from the basement is allowed to seep in there and bring the moisture along and leach heat all the way up to the chimney cavity and out of the attic. So we should put insulation in there to prevent that heat loss. And there's a little hole too. It's another advantage from the thermal camera. You don't need light. You can just go into the abyss and navigate.
Bye.
And even in the dark like this, you can easily see what is losing heat and cold.
Ooh, let's go look at the upstairs giant windows. Those are probably leaking a ton of heat.
It's just the window that's cold, but that's normal.
No cracks on the ground?
But it's really not that bad, no. In this case, it's really just the window itself that's losing heat. So this giant bay window here is one pane, all the glazing is gone, and it's absolute strainer? No. It lets the cold air come in.
I'm not gonna lie, we spent a good few hours walking all around our house with this tool, just playing with it. We went outside to see what that looked like from there. We wanted to see if we could find where all of the hot air was leaking outside of the house. We looked at the roof, we looked at the dog, and then we decided to compare what we saw on the roof from the outside of the house with what we could see from inside the attic.
So naturally, the app shows the coldest and the hottest part of the image, but you can force it with the dot option. So, okay, I want to see exactly that corner, what's the temperature, compared to, let's say, that corner here. And then it's gonna give you precise points. So a good example of what you can't see that the thermal camera can tell you is here. This whole drywall looks the same everywhere, but you can tell that in the middle here, this wall bay is completely uninsulated and the cold air is able to pass through. Even though it's right on top of the heater, this whole wall section here is staying cold all the time.
So that's the top-end thermal camera, and I can definitely give it a hearty endorsement because I bought it with my own money. It worked great and it was super useful. So I am very glad that they approached me to work together. It was kind of kismet, and I am sure that I will be using the tool again in future videos just as we continue our insulation and, renovation journey in general. And if you also want to give this camera a try, if you are in the market for a thermal camera, I definitely recommend this one. I do have all of the usual codes and discounts. They should be on screen right now as well as in the description. It supports the sponsor, which supports my channel, and it is a really useful tool. But for now, I know that I've definitely got a bunch of holes to insulate. So what's the situation?
So the situation is that it's either a lot of bees, a lot of birds, Or just original insulation shenanigans.
That's not where that goes.
Because that's full. When it was like this, that was just a bunch of birds' nests because there was a few feathers here. But the more and more we look at it, there's hay thickly packed as far as I can reach here.
Yeah, you're like up to your elbow almost.
Yeah, so I think
So do we just pull it out? Wow. Bye.
no baby birds.
That's
Hey.
blown in.
Yeah.
Also, there is a... If it starts to look like vermiculite,
No,
stop.
that's clearly newspaper. You can see cardboard all over it.
Does it go like that the whole way? It's like...
I can check with my phone. I can put my phone in there and check. Hopefully that was edible asbestos. The rest here is more blown in. Oops. So when we look in the rafters, I'm not sure what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's not super clear what's going on in that video. So we decided on another quick fix and replaced the rotting board with a new board, again from the pile of wood that was originally going to be part of the front balcony redo.
Bed goes up.
Hey, it looks like brand new.
Well, because it is.
And what we can do is also this while I'm here. Flashing the Abe a bit. There we go.
With all the gutters installed, we turned back to the heating, and if anybody is wondering where this gorgeous vinyl flooring is located, we're currently in the front entryway, which will eventually get 2 small radiators, one on each end.
Wait. More? More. More.
That enough?
A bit more. Yeah, sure, cut that there. 2 inches up the floor.
Okay. Yeehaw! Alright. And that basically kicked off another afternoon of soldering and installation. And once again, we ran into the same problem as before.
It's just flat out too big. I don't know what to do.
So a very long time viewer and friend of the channel has a husband that's a plumber, and they saw our previous video where we encountered the same problem and very helpfully reached out to share the name of the tool that we need to fix this problem, even going so far as to send me some photos of his own version of this tool. So it is called a pipe expander. Duh. Seems very obvious. It does exactly what the name implies. It expands the diameter of the copper elbow ever so slightly, you know, just enough so that it can fit on the corresponding pipe. Plus, he also shared the important tip that you should be sure to warm or anneal the fitting before you expand it, otherwise it's going to split instead of expanding. So a giant thank you to Suzanne and her husband, and hopefully this is helpful to someone else out there watching. watching us install the heaters on this atrocious looking baseboard, some of you are probably wondering why we're installing the heating when we clearly need to paint or strip this woodwork, and the answer is that we don't really have a choice. This house needs heat before the winter sets in, and we are 100% not gonna have time to address such purely aesthetic concerns like stripping baseboards for a long, long time. A word on PEX tubes, or cross-linked polyethylene, which I literally had to look up for this video because nobody calls it that. It's just called PEX tubing, which is not, by the way, to be confused with polybutylene piping, which, you know, is terrible and always makes the list of the worst plumbing pipe materials to ever exist. So, what is this PEX and why are we using it for the plumbing in our house? Well, it is a type of plastic piping. It's been used in plumbing for a while now, at least a few decades, and it's generally used in new home construction far more often than copper because it is easier and faster to install, it is less expensive, and it's more durable against freezing conditions. And you know, it's that last part that I particularly love because the frozen and then exploded water lines is exactly the reason we're in this whole situation in the first place, why we're needing to install a whole new heating and plumbing system. So if something happens, heaven forbid, that causes the heating to shut off and the water in the system freezes, PEX tubing expands rather than splitting, so that was definitely a huge draw. It's also far cheaper than copper tubing, so it was literally more accessible to us. I don't know how much it would have cost to plumb the whole house in copper, but it would have been a pretty penny more than the PEX tubing. Plus, PEX is just really, really easy to install yourself, and because it is flexible, it does have a certain amount of bend in the piping. It also reduces the number of fittings you need. Those are those little joints off in the elbows that connect the different pipes together. And since fittings are the most typical point of failure in these sorts of systems, that also definitely seemed like a bonus. Now, it's not a miracle material. It does obviously have its drawbacks. Copper tubing is slightly more durable, it will last longer, and of course it is recyclable. It's more ecologically friendly in a way that, you know, plastic PEX tubing isn't, which, trust me, I did consider. Also, you know, you're not going to get rodents chewing through your copper pipes, but we did weigh out the pros and the cons, and we did ultimately decide that the PEX tubing was the option that we'd go with for the plumbing, at least in the vast majority of the house, although as you'll see eventually, little Easter egg here, we did decide to use copper pipes in one very specific instance, and so far we're really liking it.
It's a little bit warm.
Okay, so we've just finished up in this room. We've got our bay window and we've got our other regular window, and we have started in on the hallway here and just made a fun little discovery that just makes me giggle so hard. I really enjoy this radiator placement. So I thought, let's show you. Some of you guys might enjoy it as well. So going over here, we need to put a radiator somewhere to take the place of this bad boy. So we thought, well, let's keep this one for show because it's pretty. Also, we might use that to run some PEX up to the second floor. But that basically means we have to put this radiator here. However, what was really fun is that we were able to reuse some old holes. So these, I don't know what exactly they were for. They don't actually go all the way through. They don't go through the subfloor. They really just are in this layer.
Oh, they do.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, it's newspaper stuck in there.
Oh, okay, fun. All right, so we've got some newspaper jammed in there. But either way, the hole fits perfectly for this. Ooh, and then that covers up the other ugly hole, and that brings the end of the radiator perfectly right up next to this guy. So, I don't know, I just thought that was kind of serendipitous and gave me a good chuckle. So, yeah, now we're gonna move on.
Newspaper attack. There we go. Basement.
Okay, wow, all right. Is that a wad of...
Old newspaper. Compressed, maybe a plug on top, wooden plug or something.
Yeah, I think it's a plug of some sort. Would you like some more Shannon Makes in your life? If so, I have a very fun announcement, and that is that I have finally started a second channel, and I would love for you to check it out. So if you are wondering what will I be putting over there, what can you expect from it, and why on earth did I finally start a second channel when I've spent the last 4 years refusing to be pigeonholed into one type of content, well, you don't have to wait any longer. You can see for yourself right here.